the shift from oil and gas to energy. So one of the things which is interesting with the current price point is that where in the old days it was very difficult, particularly for IOCs, to invest in new energies because oil and gas was so lucrative. It was so difficult to invest in new energies, power, utilities, where now at $30, $35 a barrel, you actually see a switch happening. It actually becomes quite interesting to invest in energy projects in general compared to oil and gas because of the return on investment changing so much. And do you think in that sense that we also will see different types of projects, different kinds of technologies coming up? In this new in the new world, in the $35 barrel world, or even lower?
Yes, and I'd like to comment. There was a comment about, did the oil industry lose focus on creating demand for crude and perhaps in new ways? I think that's an excellent point. I think within the oil industry, we've been conditioned by experience that as long as you produce, the market will find a way to use it. I think that's an interesting pivot. I think that's going to have to start happening is the oil being more active in R&D in terms of what can be done with the energy stored within the crude.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think it really does. It really does depend on, you know, again, the priorities of the industry. And Philip touched on one of them. You know, like, do you focus on growth? Historically, that's been very well rewarded. Now that's not the case anymore. It's all about your capital discipline and what you're able to generate in a very traditional sense of financial returns. So looking at the whole ecosystem, I do want to say that, again, it's before Corona, after Corona, right? Like the investment patterns of companies before and how they were perceived is going to be quite different going forward. I do think we will see less investment away from the very traditional model of, you know, finding new sources of oil, because it is about finding new sources of energy. And we will see that pivot into which is the most energy efficient source, but also efficient on a cost basis. So this will also split by priority depending on the company. An NOC or an emerging economy has the drive to find the lowest cost of energy for them, for their growing populations. Whereas the more developed countries and the more developed oil companies will have the impetus to really drive forward the innovation to produce new sources of energy. So I think we will see a split within the industry of who has the focus on just give me the lowest cost of energy, a lowest cost of supply that works for my emerging economy. And then from a developed economy perspective, I want to innovate. I want to go out and there look for more, you know, maybe cleaner or more efficient sources of energy.
Yeah. I think I support this this approach, and we've seen Shell announcing just a couple of days back, or reminding, but very publicly just a couple of days back, that there will be a net zero energy company by 2050 or earlier. Why would they advertise this right now in the middle of the COVID crisis? I don't think it's just because it was part of their marketing plan that they defined a year back. It's because they see a real value in positioning themselves as a net zero energy company, not an oil and gas company, not an oil company, not a gas company, an energy company, and a net zero one. So typically a totally different behavior than the Aramcos or others who will invest in India to secure their end customer market. They will invest in refineries, in storage capacity in India and other emerging countries. They will probably invest in shares of various NOCs which are maybe less rich than themselves. They will probably take over a number of independents. So really two different approaches, and we will see a much higher split or a much more obvious split in the segmentation in our customers. Yes.